The 2018 draft class has shaped up to be one of the greatest overall draft classes in recent history, with standout superstars like Luka Doncic and Trae Young, as well as a multitude of all-star caliber players like Colin Sexton, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Miles Bridges. In our simulation, these guys all turned out pretty good, but they were all drafted by bad teams and weren't able to make it to the playoffs. All of them except for one. And this one man not only helped his team back to the playoffs, he single-handedly raised them from being a lottery team to championship contenders. And his name? DeAndre Ayton? While DeAndre Ayton may have been the first overall pick by the Phoenix Suns back in 2018, he hasn't really lived up to his high expectations. I mean, sure, he's been a solid contributor to the Suns roster, but he's eons away from being a star player, let alone even an all-star. However, in this simulation, Ayton was out there looking like a rookie Hakeem Olajuwon. Drafted with the 8th overall pick by the Brooklyn Nets, Ayton was picked in the hopes that he would be an immediate impact, as the Nets already had Kevin Love and Jimmy Butler on their roster, and are hoping to push their way back into the playoffs. The Nets' wish came true, as DeAndre would end the season averaging 21 points, 13 rebounds, and led the league in blocks, winning Rookie of the Year unanimously, and also securing the 4th seed in the East. Ayton's dominance was undeniable as he made the All-Star team as a rookie, something that hadn't been done since Yao Ming in 2003. What made this even more impressive is that Ayton was one of the 7 centers that were selected this year. Actually 8 if you count Anthony Davis. It was clear the NBA was yet again becoming a big man's league. However, Stephen Curry must not have caught the memo, as he ends the year averaging a mind-boggling 36 points and 9 assists a game on 50, 40, and 90 splits, and easily leads the Warriors to the top of the West for yet another season, alongside his running mate Kevin Durant. But could Curry lead the Warriors to back-to-back championships? Let's find out. The Warriors will be facing the OKC Thunder in the first round, who shocked the world by winning Game 1 in convincing fashion behind James Harden and Steven Adams. But after Stephen Curry hits his game winner in Game 2, the Warriors surged ahead and won the series in 5. The next matchup was the Phoenix Suns, led by a very young trio of Donovan Mitchell, Clint Capella, and Brandon Ingram, who'd be facing off against the Minnesota Timberwolves, who had the 2 biggest free agency signings of the offseason, picking up both John Wall and Goran Dragic to join DeAndre Jordan. The Wolves are up 2-1 to start the series, and much like Stephen Curry, Goran Dragic has a game-winning layup in Game 4, and the Wolves soon after win the series in 5. The Lakers have a similar fate as the Suns, as the duo of Millsap and Devin Booker just isn't enough to stop Melo and Anthony Davis from leading the Mavericks to victory in just 5 games. The last series in the West was the 2nd seed Kings versus the 7th seed Rockets. Houston's star player Deron Lamb was out for the season with a calf injury. However, Nikola Vucevic stepped up in his absence and led the Rockets to win the first 2 games out in Sacramento. The Kings come back and win Game 3 and 4 behind electric performances from both Paul George and Gordon Hayward. Game 5 would be a close one, as both teams would be tied at 112 with just a minute to go. Vucevic finds a wide open lane and slams it in with force. On the other end, Hayward finds George beyond the arc, but he misses the open shot. Luckily, Aaron Gordon was there for the putback, and the game is again all tied up. The Rockets call a timeout, and decide to run a pick and roll with Vucevic and Jerian Grant. Thornwell shifts over to watch Vucevic, leaving Grant relatively open to score a layup by the rim. The Kings decide to go through George for their last play, who finds Marcin Gortat open in the paint. He gets Vuce in the air with a pump fake, and sneaks past him for a sneaky lay-in, tying the game up yet again. This game would go into overtime, and the Kings would take over and win in convincing fashion. This ended up being the deciding game, as the Kings win Game 6 and advance to the next round. Out east, the 1st seed Celtics sweep the Hornets in 4 games, as Charlotte's young team of Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Porzingis aren't enough to stop the God Squad of Giannis, Jokic, Chris Paul, Kyle Lowry, and Ben Simmons. The Nets are also able to sweep their competition to the Detroit Pistons, who underperformed massively. Last year they were the 2nd seed, and took the New York Knicks to 7 games in the conference finals behind their star duo of Kawhi Leonard and Jabari Parker. However, this year they couldn't rekindle that magic, and got destroyed. Another standout for this Brooklyn Nets team was the rookie Miles Bridges, who dropped 27 points in Game 1. Fortunately, the next 2 series proved to be a lot more interesting. First off, we have the 3rd seed Wizards facing off against the 6th seed Cavs. This is the first time the Cavs have made it back to the playoffs since LeBron's departure in the 2010 offseason. And they have an extremely solid young core of Bradley Beal, Julius Randle, Markelle Fultz, and 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, Bismack Biyombo. The Wizards also have an extremely young team, their core being Zach LaVine, DeJounte Murray, and Draymond Green. The series starts out at 1 apiece, and Game 3 ended up being a crucial game. However, DeJounte Murray would seal the deal with his putback off Draymond's miss, and Beal and Fultz both missed crucial threes to try and get them back in the game. Game 4 would also end up being a close game, as the Cavs were up by 1 with just a minute 30 left. With the shot clock winding down, Enes Kanter tries backing down Biyombo, who blocks his first shot attempt, and prevents his putback from going in. The Cavs run down the court and Beal is able to lay it in off the pass from Fultz, increasing their lead to 3. DeJounte comes back up the floor, and darts it off the screen from Kanter. However, Biyombo yet again blocks his shot, and deflects the second attempt, proving yet again why he's the back-to-back DPOY. Cleveland yet again runs up in transition, and finds Lauri Markkanen wide open by the rim, as he brings the lead up to 5. DeJounte responds by putting up a floater in transition, right over the outstretched hand of Biyombo, and the Wizards are back in the game. Wiggins dribbles the ball out, and eventually takes the 3 with just 4 seconds left on the clock, but can't score it, giving Washington a chance to bring this game into overtime. They call a timeout, and run a play to find Zach LaVine with an inch of space at the 3-point line. He puts it up, and it just barely rims out. The Cavs end up capitalizing this victory, and would win the series in 7. The last series of this first round was the 2nd seed Toronto Raptors and the 7th seed Chicago Bulls. Just like in real life, the Raptors had a terrific front office, and again built their team around their star DeMar DeRozan, pairing him with other talents like Blake Griffin and Jamal Murray. This Bulls team, on the other hand, was a lot more unique. Much like the 2019 Nets in real life, the team featured a bunch of younger guys that surprised the league, and advanced their timeline much faster than we expected them to. They had players like Marcus Morris, Michael Porter Jr., Evan Fournier, and just like the Nets, All-NBA member D'Angelo Russell. The Raptors started the series strong, and led 2-1 going into Game 4. And with a minute left, they were up by 2 and had possession. Griffin sets screen for Murray, and rolls toward the basket. Murray finds him in the paint as Griffin stuffs it. Russell takes the ball back up, and craftily gets in the paint, dishing it off to Morris, who converts on the N1. DeRozan comes back up the floor, but gets fouled, and he's able to knock down both his free throws. The Bulls call a timeout, and decide yet again to trust D'Lo. D'Lo makes the correct decision of passing it out to Fournier, who's wide open at the 3, and he drills it. The Raptors call a timeout, and decide they want to run the shot clock out. The Bulls anticipated this, however, and run a switching double team on ball. The Raptors were countered by passing the ball around from man to man, eventually finding Christian Wood cutting, who posterizes Morris in the paint. The Bulls are out of timeouts, and will have to wing it on the spot. Luckily, they've got D'Angelo Russell, who brings the ball up, and finds an inch of space at the 3. He pulls up with 3 seconds on the clock, and he knocks it in! The Bulls now tie the series up at 2 apiece, and be going back to Toronto for Game 5. Game 5 would also end up being a close one, as the Bulls were up by 2 with just 30 seconds left. Jamal Murray takes the ball up court, and wastes no time to cut to the rim. He gets contested in the paint, but buys through the defense and ties the game at 121. Porter Jr. tries to do the same on the other end, but misses it, and the Raptors come back in transition. They find Murray yet again, who gets fouled, and knocks in both his free throws. The Bulls call a timeout, and yet again rely on D'Lo, who never fails to deliver as he scoops in a silky smooth layup in the paint. This gives the Raptors 13 seconds to win the game. They pass it around a bit, but Sell and DeRozan posted up in the paint against Fournier. He fakes a turnaround, but then steps in with the space he created, and hits the easy layup, winning the game. This victory was the nail in the coffin for Chicago, as the Raptors would win the series in 7 as well. Unfortunately, the second round proved to be pretty lackluster, with blowout after blowout. Out west, the Timberwolves shocked the world by getting out to a hot start against the previous champions in the Golden State Warriors, as both Goran Dragic and John Wall lead the way. However, Curry absolutely torched them the last 3 games, scoring over 30 in each game, and the Warriors win in 6. Thankfully, the other Western semifinal matchup was a bit better. It was actually a rematch from the last year between the Kings and the Mavericks. History seemed to be repeating itself, as the Kings went into Game 6 up 3-2 in the series, but the Mavs were determined to fight back this year, and were up by 1 with only 30 seconds left in the game. Second round inbounds into Paul George, who has no trouble gliding past Rashad Vaughn into the paint. Anthony Davis switches onto him, but PG-13 is able to lay it in over him with 26 seconds remaining, meaning that the Kings are now up by 1 when have the last possession. With Paul George defending Melo, the Mavs decided their best bet is to go with Anthony Davis, who's being guarded by Taj Gibson. The Mavs clear out to the right side of the court, giving AD an open ISO to go to work. What happens next, you'll have to see to believe. Okay, post up, Davis, post up. What is that, Davis? Bro, no way. Put in! Oh my god! Oh my god, dude. That is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. And just like that, the Kings and Warriors would yet again be facing off in the Western Conference Finals. Out east, the Cleveland Cavaliers and Toronto Raptors would be facing off against one another. The Raptors had the much better team on paper, but the Cavs had a lot of heart and a little more bench depth, and this series is really anybody's to take. That being said, let's just jump straight over to Game 5, as the series was tied 2-2 and was anybody's for the taking. With a minute left to go, the game was tied, and the Cavaliers had the ball. They inbounded to Kelly Oubre Jr., who passed it to Julius Randle in the post. He decides to go straight up against Ed Davis, but misses the contested shot, and the Raptors would come the other way. Jamal Murray dribbles it around, but can't find an angle, so he passes it off to Blake Griffin. Blake goes for a jab through the leg step back, but chokes and goes for a fake out while he's open. Lauri Markkanen then closes out on him, and he has to pass it back off to Murray, who misses the 3. The Cavs decided to not call a timeout, and instead go on a fast break. They are able to find Dwight Howard open in the paint, who finishes the play with a smooth lane over Blake Griffin. The Raptors call a timeout, and have just 19 seconds to come back in this game. Jamal Murray decides to dribble at the clock, and waits patiently for a Griffin screen to make his move. He darts towards the rim, getting the switch, and finishes with contact over Julius Randle. There's now just 3 seconds left in the game, and the Cavaliers call a timeout. Randle sets a screen for Fultz, who runs to the top of the key, but Murray's there to contest. But that was just a fake-out play, as Randle again screens Beal's defender, giving him an inch of space at the 3-point line. Beal pulls up from long range, the ball arcing high in the air. It starts its ascent, and it's in! The Cavaliers win it! They end up losing in Game 6, but in the end they would beat all the odds to make it to the conference finals for the first time since they had LeBron. It had taken nearly a decade, but the Cavs are finally relevant once again. And with how young their team is, they should have a fantastic future ahead of them. This last series is the one we've all been waiting for, the Boston Celtics versus the Brooklyn Nets. Both these teams stepped up big time this season, and were both real contenders. It's almost a given that whoever wins this series will end up in the NBA Finals, and it was bound to be a show. And that's exactly what we got in Game 1, as the Nets are up by 1 with just a minute 30 left. The Celtics find Jokic in the center, and Brooklyn makes the fatal mistake of double-teaming him. Jokic is easily able to find Josh Hart wide open near the hoop, but Ayton fouls him before he can score it. Josh Hart doesn't back down for the moment, however, and knocks in both his free throws. Normally it'd be Giannis in the court in his place, but he fouled out just a few minutes prior, so the sophomore has some pretty big shoes to fill. Jimmy Butler takes it back up, but gets stripped by the rim by a crafty Chris Paul. He passes up to Sarge in the fast break, who finds Lowry cutting to the rim and lays it in, giving the Celtics a 3-point lead. Jimmy Butler wasn't about to back down though, as he backs down Chris Paul, and uses his reach to toss the ball in. Lowry comes back the other way and finds Jokic posted up. Rubio comes over on the double, and Jokic fails to score this time, and the Nets would come back the other way on a fast break. Miles Bridges steamrolls ahead of everybody, and finds an absolutely wide open lane, where he's able to lay it in and give the Nets the lead. There's now just 22 seconds left on the clock, so the Celtics have the last possession. They decide to let Jokic have it. However, he rushes it and tries to shoot it over Ayton and misses. He quickly fouls Bridges and forces 2 free throws. While Bridges might be a rookie, he's got that dog in him, and he knocks them both down, meaning that the Celtics would have to score 3 to have a chance to force an overtime. Lucky for them, all 5 of their stars are great 3-point shooters. They pass it into Lowry, but Ricky Rubio is all over him. Lowry's able to find a skip pass to Josh Hart, however, who's been left wide open at the 3-point line, and he drills it. The Nets call their own timeout with just 5 seconds to go, and decide to go through Rubio. Rubio makes the smart basketball decision and passes off to C.D. Osman, who's found himself wide open at the top of the key, but he can't score it, and we'd be going into overtime. Unfortunately for the Nets, Boston takes full control in OT and would take Game 1. After that game, the Nets weren't able to put up much of a contest, and the star-studded Celtics would be advancing to the conference finals. Out west, we had a rematch from last year, the Golden State Warriors and the Sacramento Kings, the 2 top teams in the West in consecutive seasons. Last year, the Warriors had come back from being down 3-1 to prevail over the Kings, and this year's going to be shaping up in a similar way, as the Kings started the series going up 2-1. Gordon Hayward led the team in scoring each game, and Paul George was locking down Kevin Durant at the defensive end, forcing him only to shoot 35% from the field. What the Kings didn't have, however, was someone to stop Steph Curry, as he would score 45 and 33 in games 4 and 5, and KD would close out the series with 58 points in Game 6. This would be the Warriors' 3rd time in 6 years making it to the finals. They hadn't lost once in the finals, and didn't plan to this year either. However, this year they'd be facing their toughest competition yet, as the Celtics easily sweep the Cavaliers in 5 games. This was the finals matchup we were all expecting, but somehow it didn't seem like it would happen. The Warriors and Celtics have debatably been the best 2 teams in the NBA for the past few years, but they always seem to be having some kind of injury struggle that held their teams back. Chris Paul, Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant, none of these guys are typically known for their durability, but somehow they all managed to stay healthy throughout the playoffs, and we're now here in the NBA Finals.
When I'm coming and I'm walking and I got a plan. I've been doing this shit by myself until I land. Said you got some problems for yourself, I understand. I just go and drop another track development. Please get out my way. Yeah, when it's pretty cold, yeah, it's gonna stay. I've been in my zone, yeah, I've never ever been away. I'ma set the tone so like all the people stay. I'ma never stop, get it poppin' like a CBA. Yeah, had a choice. Don't wanna say never had a choice. Yeah, in and out the city with the boys. I just wanna go outside, I just wanna make some noise. But that's that, I don't relapse, I just pass back. Facts that, I just speak that, I'ma get that. Flashback, wearing all black, where the troops at. Kick back when I play back all of my tracks.
This was a dream come true for the Celtics team, who had finally pushed past all adversity and did what they honestly should have done 2 years ago. Chris Paul had finally broken his streak of not being able to make it past the second round, and he was actually here, competing. While he may not have been the best player on his team, he was a close second to Nikola Jokic, but was definitely the soul of the team. So not only do they have 2 of the top 15 players in the league, they also had Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's been solid his whole career, but really broke out this season and stepped up his game to be a true star player. The Warriors weren't no joke either though, and proved so in Game 1 as they're up by 4 with just 2 minutes to go. After Fareed misses this open shot in the paint, Jokic snatches the ball right out of Durant's hands and throws it up to Paul in the fast break. Paul decides to get tricky with it and shoots it over to Ben Simmons, who stuffs it in to bring Boston within 2. Durant responds on the other end with a 3, and puts the Warriors back up. Lowry takes no time to respond as he jukes out Gary Payton II, who the Warriors failed to find a solid replacement for after his blunders last year, and he floats it in. On the other end, Lowry doubles Durant to leave Gary Payton wide open to the 3-point line. And what do you know? Bricks. Lowry again abuses the mismatch, and hits a 3 over Payton's outstretched hand off the screen from Jokic. The game is now tied up, and it's up to Durant to take the lead back. JaVale comes up to set a screen, and both Jokic and Giannis come out to double team Durant, leaving McGee wide open. Durant won't make the same mistake he did the last play, however, and he chooses to go in for the basket by himself, splitting the defense and somehow finding his way to the rim to lay it in. Lowry catches Durant sleeping on D, however, and finds Chris Paul by the rim, who lays it in over Fareed. The Warriors don't take any chances, and call a timeout to cool the tension. They pass it into Curry, who gets double teamed and throws it into Fareed, who thought he was open, but Ben Simmons swoops in with a last-minute contest and forces the miss. The Celtics pass it up to CP3, who takes the mid-range jumper in transition and drills it, giving Boston the lead. The Warriors decide to use their last timeout so they can get themselves together, and decide to go with KD as their guy. He drives in, trying to score a 2-for-1 opportunity, but gets fouled with 23 seconds left. This is KD we're talking about though, so he of course scores both his free throws. This gives Boston the last possession of the game to try and win it. Lowry dribbles the ball out. With 5 seconds to go, he passes it off to Chris Paul. He tries to drive in on Curry, but gets double teamed by McGee. Before he can pass it off, JaVale nicks away from him and lobs it full court, hoping to win the game, but it banks off the back of the rim, and we'd be going into overtime. The Warriors start out hot, and are up by 6 with 2.5 minutes to go. However, Darius Saric intends to change that, as he goes up for an open dunk, or so he thought. McGee comes out of nowhere and rejects him at the rim. Saric grabs the board, but McGee again blocks him from behind. Boston maintained possession, however, and Chris Paul capitalized on it by scoring a 3 and making it a 1-possession game. On the other end, Durant finds Curry cutting to the hoop, and he manages to lay it in over Jokic. Lowry comes back the other way, but passes it off to Saric as Fareed shifts to double. Saric dunks it in, keeping Boston still in this game. Durant comes back the other way, and dishes it out to Gary Payton, who's wide up in the corner. And he of course I stand corrected. Maybe he's improved some this season. Or maybe he's still the same player. Giannis takes it up in transition, and powers it in over the Durant contest. The Warriors come back the other way, and Boston goes to their go-to defensive strategy, leaving Gary Payton wide open at the 3-point line. And lo and behold, the strategy prevails yet again, as GP bricks yet another 3. This leaves the Celtics with just 40 seconds to come back in this game, and Lowry yet again proves why he's an elite passer, as he finds Saric wide open at the 3-point line, and he drills the shot. Durant dribbles up in transition, and proves he's also an elite playmaker as he feeds Fareed, who dunks it in over Giannis. Boston are now down by 3 with 26 seconds to go, and this may be their last possession to come back. Lowry gets doubled, and yet again finds Saric wide open at the 3-point line. This time, however, he can't hit it, sealing the Celtics' fate. As Curry knocks in both his free throws, the Warriors wrap up a hard-fought Game 1 with a victory. Despite how grueling the first matchup was, now the team backed down Game 2, as the Warriors be up by 2 with 2 minutes to go. Fareed for some reason decides to go for this fade with 20 seconds left in the shot clock. However, McGee scoops up with his mistake and slams it in, making it a 2-possession game. After a few missed possessions, Lowry finds Saric in the paint with a mismatch, and he's easily able to hit the fadeaway over Curry. On the other end, Paul and Lowry execute a perfect trap on Curry, who's forced to pass it off to McGee in the paint. He fumbles with it, however, and Saric is able to get the steal. Boston again finds Saric with a mismatch. However, this time he decides to pass it off to Chris Paul, who can't score the layup. The Warriors come back in transition, and find Durant in the corner, guarded by Rudy Fernandez. He does a hezzy, then steps in for the shot, but Fernandez contests it pretty well, forcing a miss. Fareed manages to grab the rebound, however, but chooses the worst time ever to have butterfingers, and the ball slips out of his hands as he tries to slam it in. Giannis grabs the rebound and takes it up in transition, finding Paul a spot up in the corner, and he hits it. The Celtics now have the lead. With 17 seconds left, Golden State call a timeout, giving them plenty of time to capitalize on this possession. Curry decides to dribble it out. With 3 seconds to go, Fareed tries to set a screen on Paul, but he dodges it and stays on Curry, contesting a fadeaway from mid-range, and he misses it. The series is now tied 1-1. Still feeling hot as ever, Boston wins the next game by 16, as Nikola Jokic scores 46 points and dishes out 9 assists. The Warriors manage to come back in the next 2 games, however, as Curry puts on an absolute masterclass and drops 51 and 46 points, and dishes out 9 and 16 assists. Game 6 will be back in Golden State, and the Celtics' future was looking a bit shaky. However, they managed to stay in it, and were up by 4 with 3 minutes to go. Simmons sets a screen on Curry as Paul forces the switch. He finds Simmons in the paint, who's able to finish it over the much smaller Steph. Curry, however, forces a switch on the other end, putting Chris Paul and Durant, who easily finishes the open fadeaway 3 over him. Jeff Green converts on a layup the play after, and the Warriors are now just a point behind. That wouldn't last long, however, as Jokic finds Josh Hart open for mid-range, and he scores it. On the other end, the Warriors pass it around till they find Curry with an inch of space in mid-range, and he hits it over Lowry. Enraged, Lowry tries to respond by spinning into the paint on the other end, but he can't convert. On the next play, he dished it off to Hart, who tries to lay it up, but gets rejected by rookie Gary Trent Jr. I just want to take a moment to point out how different these lineups look. The Warriors finally realized that Fred and Gary Payton weren't capable of finishing out finals games, and instead trusted Jeff Green and rookie Gary Trent Jr., who've proven to be welcome changes. For the Celtics, Chris Paul was on the bench due to muscle spasms, and Josh Hart had taken his place. It isn't often you get to see rookies or sophomores playing the finals, let alone the closing minutes, but both these guys have proven their worth to their teams, and were trusted to make the right plays where they were needed most. That being said, while Trent may have been a much better defender, he proved he didn't add much offensively as he missed the wide open 3 on the other end. The Celtics come back in transition, as Lowry finishes on the fast break. Golden State decided to take it slow, as Lowry sets a screen for Durant, who hits a jumper right over Jokic to bring Boston's lead down to 1. The Celtics come screaming back down the court, and Sarge finds Lowry in the paint, and he yet again scores for his team in the clutch. The Warriors call a timeout, and Chris Paul finds the strength to push himself back onto the court for the final 30 seconds of the game. This would prove to be a mistake, however, as he fails to keep up with Curry, who finds himself wide open to the 3-point line. He puts it up and he misses it. However, Jeff Green is there for the putback, keeping the Warriors still in this game. The Warriors intentionally foul Chris Paul, and he scores both his free throws to make it a 3-point game. There are now 14 seconds to go, and the Warriors don't have a timeout to give. Durant passes to Gary Trent, who freaks out and launches it from deep with 7 seconds to go. As it bricks, it was clear the Celtics would be winning this game. Wait, hold up. Jeff Green grabbed the rebound. He passes it back out to Gary Trent, who again makes the wrong decision and passes it to Durant, who's cutting to the rim. Luckily, Durant is able to dish it out to Curry with just a second to go, and Curry continues the domination in OT, scoring most of the Warriors' baskets. However, the Celtics stay neck and neck with him, and are still in the game. With just a minute left and the game tied up, Durant ices at the top of the key, hits Giannis with a jelly, and drives in for an easy floater over Jokic. On the other end, Gary Trent Jr. runs over to Chris Paul to try and double, leaving Josh Hart wide open to the 3-point line. Lowry is fouled out, leaving this game-defining shot up to the rookie. His feet lift off the ground, and the ball leaves his hand, arcing high over top everyone. Splash. The Celtics are up. Durant tries to drive in on Giannis again, but this time he gets stopped. He passes out to Curry, however, and he hits the 2. The Celtics call a timeout, and decide to go with their best player so far in this series, Nikola Jokic. While he hasn't done much in the clutch, he's been instrumental in keeping the Celtics team in contention, and is probably the best player on the team. Paul feeds him in the paint, but he can't finish over Thompson. Giannis manages to grab the rebound, and gets fouled in the putback, and will go to the line. Giannis may be a lot of things, but he definitely is not a consistent free throw shooter. In the clutch, however, he manages to knock them both down, and gives Boston the lead with only 19 seconds to go. The Warriors call a timeout, and the only question is if they will go with Curry or Durant. Surprisingly, they choose KD. He dribbles out the clock. With 6 seconds to go, Thompson sets a screen on Giannis, but he manages to get by it and stays right in Durant, contesting the 3. The ball goes up in the air, arches down, and he missed. He missed. And we now have ourselves a Game 7. If you thought Game 7 would be a contest, you'd be right. With only 4 minutes to go, the Celtics would be up by only 1, and it didn't look good for them. Lowry takes it up and finds Saric in the paint, who finishes with contact over Fareed. Giannis would get the stop on Durant on the other end, and passes to Saric again in transition, who spots up for 3 in the fast break, and hits it. The Celtics decide to keep feeding the hot hand, as Saric drives in this time, and shoots it over Fareed in the paint, again scoring it, putting Boston up by 8. After Kenneth Faried again messes up a putback dunk, this time due to basket interference. The game really started to slip away from Golden State, and after a pair of dunks from Jokic, the Warriors are out of reach, and the Boston Celtics have won their 18th championship, surpassing the Lakers as the most winning franchise in NBA history. After all this time, this legendary team had finally managed to stay healthy, and blossom into the powerhouse they were supposed to become. We all knew it was a matter of time before this team would win a championship. The only question is, how many more can they win? If you made it to the end of this video, thank you for your time. I hope it was well spent. If you're a Warriors fan, I'm sorry, but y'all have already got 2 chips in this universe, so I hope you guys are okay with sharing the spotlight. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out on any of my future releases. It takes me a long time to write, record, and edit all these videos, as it's just me doing it. So I hope you can forgive my sparse uploads. We've only got 3 years left before we're caught up to the present day, so if you want to see these seasons unfold live, go ahead and follow my Twitch. The link will be in the description. This save file is all taking place in 2K21, and I'm not sure how much longer their servers will be live, so I'm going to have to stream all these seasons before 2K23 comes out. So come join us for the adventure. We'll have a great time. But until then, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Peace.